Objectivity or neutrality is often mentioned as an important virtue in reporting information. We've talked a lot about ethos in this course, and it's important to understand how writers establish their ethos or authority by claiming their positions as unbiased sources, able to process and present information without favoritism or self-interest. For example, often tabloid news reporting is characterized as lacking objectivity, or publications that promote particular products without clearly separating editorial content from advertising can be problematic. Often objectivity is represented as the ability to incorporate sources with many different points of view. Of course, if objectivity is conceived of as the ability to show at least two sides to every story, or to give equal weight to pro and con positions, other ethical issues can arise. For example, if debates within public opinion are conceived of merely as pro versus con, what happens if there's a third point of view? Furthermore, there might be situations in which there's a strong consensus in favor of a particular position that is supported by the principles of human rights or the scientific method, and other parties may introduce doubt that is unfounded. Harvard professor Naomi Oreskes has argued that corporate interests may hire well-respected scientists to make research on the ill effects of smoking or climate change appear more cloudy, complicated, and confusing than it actually is. Another strategy for maintaining objectivity is rhetorical. It involves avoiding language that seems subjective or highly situated in a personal rather than professional voice. Of course, the rise of blogging, even by major news organizations, in which writers use I language and speak as participants in newsmaking, has changed many reporting conventions. But readers have enjoyed reading first-person eyewitness accounts for a long time. Although much of this course is about effective self-promotion, disseminating information that promotes your own self-interests over others can be ethically problematic if you don't acknowledge how you might benefit from spreading certain kinds of information or misinformation. For example, today some bloggers are paid to promote certain products or services, but don't reveal to their readers that they're receiving income from these activities. That introduces a significant bias in the ways that they report information. Now that everyone can receive benefits from promoting particular links on social network sites, it can be difficult for people to even trust if status updates on Facebook pages from their friends represent genuine enthusiasm or self-interest. The value of assuming a neutral position should be understandable, given how showing favoritism to a particular position can silence others. Today, critics argue that it is not enough just to have writers and editors avoid showing preference, because computer networks can be designed to privilege some content over others if network neutrality is not maintained. With some news channels promoting particular political ideologies, favoring some channels of information over others could have serious consequences for our democracy. Although some court decisions have argued that the internet makes so many opinions available publicly online, the traditional ways of maintaining fairness are no longer needed. The principle of integrity is one way to understand how we can cope with the bombardment of information in the digital era. This principle suggests that we each have a part to play as digital composers and curators in trying to figure out the truth and present it in a straightforward fashion. A position of integrity would take issue with a position of radical relativism that asserts that everything could be true. For example, a radical relativist might be willing to listen to a Holocaust denier and give them the digital equivalent of airtime, which could have disastrous consequences for people who have been victimized, hoping to live in civil society without persecution. Another thing that you can do to promote ethical behavior around new media is to participate in venues that allow openness, so comments from those who disagree can be registered. In the past, letters to the editor did some of that work, but with computational networks, there are other ways that information that contradicts a misleading story can reach the public. the unit where we talked about shop windows as rhetorical spaces, we introduced the principle of transparency. This principle can be important for being accountable to the public. For example, at my UC campus, taxpayers can see my salary and my student evaluations, which is considered reasonable because I'm a public employee. News organizations who file Freedom of Information requests often base their demands for secret documents on the importance of serving the public interests. New kinds of news sources like WikiLeaks take advantage of the fact that digital files can be much more easily transported out of locked locations than paper files, and count on the contributions to the site from anonymous donors. Famously, they published video that showed Iraqi journalists being killed by US Army helicopters that the military did not want to release.